The first thing you should know is this: I didn't just buy a house, I bought my dream farmhouse. And when I say dream, I mean the kind of place I used to sketch on scraps of paper back when I was living in a cramped one-bedroom apartment with thin walls where I could hear every fight my neighbors had at 2 a.m. For years, I hustled. Double shifts, weekend overtime, saving every extra dollar, sacrificing nights out, vacations, and sometimes even proper meals just to put money away. I told myself one day it would all pay off, one day I'd wake up somewhere that actually felt like home. And that day finally came. The farmhouse wasn't fancy in the modern sense. It wasn't one of those brand new cookie-cutter houses with fake brick fronts and HOA boards breathing down your neck about what shade of beige your garage door should be. No. This was different. My farmhouse was old, built nearly a century ago, with a big wraparound porch, tall windows, and weathered white siding that gave it character. It sat on a few acres of open land, surrounded by rolling fields and a line of oak trees that looked like they'd been standing there since before cars were even invented. The first time I pulled up the gravel driveway, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in years. No sirens, no neighbors stacked on top of each other, no rules telling me what I could or couldn't do. Just peace. And I'll admit, I was proud. Proud of myself for working hard enough to get here, proud of the fact that I had managed to buy something with history, something real. I imagined summer evenings on the porch, coffee in the mornings with the sound of birds instead of traffic, maybe even a garden out back where I could grow my own vegetables. This place wasn't just a house. It was freedom. But peace has a way of drawing out people who can't stand to see it. And unfortunately for me, one of those people lived just close enough to notice my move-in. The locals around the area had warned me about the Homeowners Association, the HOA, that managed the nearby subdivision called Oakwood Lakes. They said the HOA was strict, the kind of strict where you could get a warning for having the wrong kind of flower pot in your yard. I wasn't worried, though, because my farmhouse wasn't in Oakwood Lakes. I'd made sure of that before buying. The county records clearly showed my property was separate, free from any HOA oversight. I thought that meant I wouldn't have to deal with their nonsense. I was wrong. It was on move-in day, when my truck was backed up to the porch and I was lugging boxes out of the cab, that I saw her. At first, I thought maybe she was just being neighborly. She was striding down my driveway with purpose, sunglasses perched on her nose even though the sun was half hidden behind clouds, her hair pulled back in a tight bun that looked like it hadn't moved in years. She carried a clipboard, which already seemed odd. Who shows up to welcome someone with a clipboard? She didn't bother with small talk. No, hi, welcome to the neighborhood, no, congratulations on your new home. Instead, the first words out of her mouth were, "Excuse me. You can't just move in without HOA approval." I almost laughed because I thought it had to be a mistake. HOA approval? I asked, setting down the box in my hands. Ma'am, this farmhouse isn't even in your HOA. This is county land. Her face twisted like I just told her the sky was green. That's impossible, she snapped. All houses in this area are part of the Oakwood Lakes HOA. You're in violation. Violation. That word hit me like I'd just been accused of a crime. I hadn't even unpacked my coffee maker yet, and already someone was calling me a violator. I took a breath, trying to stay polite. With all due respect, I did my research. This property isn't part of Oakwood Lakes. It's not covered by your HOA. You can double-check with the county if you want. Her jaw tightened, and she tapped her clipboard with a pen like she was already writing me a ticket. Don't get smart with me. I've lived here for 20 years. I know every boundary, every rule, every regulation. And this farmhouse falls under our jurisdiction. You can't just waltz in here without filing the proper paperwork. I stared at her, half in disbelief, half in amusement. Paperwork? Lady, this house was built before your HOA even existed. What kind of paperwork do you think I need for moving into a place I legally own? That's when she said the word that would become her favorite, illegal. She practically shouted it, stabbing her finger toward my truck. This entire move-in is illegal. Your truck is parked illegally. That porch furniture is illegal. Everything you're doing is against HOA rules. I couldn't help it, I laughed. Not to mock her, but because the whole thing was so ridiculous. I was standing on land I had just purchased with my own hard-earned money, land that had been in the county records for over 100 years, and here was this woman with a clipboard trying to tell me my porch chairs were a crime. Her face turned red when she saw me laugh. You think this is funny? You won't be laughing when the HOA fines you. And believe me, those fines add up. If you don't pay, we can take legal action. We can put a lien on this property. You'll regret ever moving here. I shook my head. Ma'am, you're barking up the wrong tree. This farmhouse isn't yours to control. You and your HOA don't get a say in what I do here. Now if you'll excuse me, I've got boxes to unload. For a second, I thought she might back off. But instead, she leaned closer, lowering her voice like she was delivering a threat. Mark my words. If you stay here, you'll regret it. She turned on her heel and stormed back up the driveway, gravel crunching under her heels, leaving me standing there with a box in my hands and a sour taste in my mouth. I tried to shrug it off. I told myself she was just a nosy neighbor who liked to feel important. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Karen, because yes, she was a Karen in every sense of the word, wasn't going to let it go. And I was right. That first encounter was just the beginning. The very next morning, I woke up early, hoping to enjoy the kind of peace I had dreamed of when I bought this farmhouse. I poured myself a cup of coffee, stepped onto the porch, and just stood there for a while, listening to the birds, the soft breeze moving through the oak trees, and the distant sound of a tractor working in someone's field. It was everything I had wanted. At least, until I noticed movement at the end of my driveway. There she was again. Karen. This time, she wasn't just walking by. She was standing at the edge of my driveway with her phone out, snapping pictures like a paparazzi catching a celebrity scandal. She didn't even try to hide it. Every time I shifted, her phone followed me. She shouted across the yard, her voice sharp enough to cut through the morning calm. Your shutters are the wrong color. And that truck of yours cannot be parked in the open like that. It's against HOA regulations. For a moment, I honestly thought she was joking. But she wasn't. Her face was deadly serious, and her tone had that mix of arrogance and authority only someone drunk on imaginary power could manage. I set my coffee down on the porch railing and walked toward her, trying to keep calm. Ma'am, we went over this yesterday. This farmhouse is not in your HOA. I checked the county maps before buying. I don't fall under your rules. She scoffed, tapping at her clipboard again like she was about to cite me for a violation. Don't try to be a smart guy. Oakwood Lakes HOA covers this entire area. Every home, every acre, every improvement has to go through us. You're not special. You're not exempt. And if you think you can just ignore the rules, you're going to be very, very sorry. Her confidence might have rattled someone else, but I knew better. Before I bought the place, I made sure the HOA couldn't touch it. I had triple-checked the maps, talked to the county clerk, even asked a real estate attorney to confirm. This farmhouse wasn't just outside the HOA, it wasn't even close to their official boundary. Still, I tried to be polite. Look, I get that you care a lot about your HOA. But this property is mine. It's not covered by your rules, and it never will be. I'm going to keep parking my truck here, I'm going to paint my shutters whatever color I want, and you can take as many pictures as you want, it doesn't change the facts. Her face darkened, and she jabbed a finger at me. Don't you dare test me. I'll have the HOA fine you. And when you refuse to pay, we'll take you to court. You'll lose your so-called dream house before you even finish unpacking." The way she said it sent a chill down my spine, not because I believed her, but because I realized just how far she was willing to go. She didn't just want me to follow her rules. She wanted to break me. The following days were like a nightmare on repeat. Every morning, I'd wake up to something new. One day it was another round of photos, Karen walking circles around my property like she was a health inspector. The next day, I found a bright orange paper taped to my porch. In bold, block letters, it read, "HOA violation notice." The notice claimed I owed $500 for improper parking, another $200 for unauthorized exterior paint colors, and an additional $100 for illegal lawn decorations. Illegal lawn decorations? I hadn't even put a single decoration out yet. The porch had 2 old rocking chairs I'd inherited from my grandfather. If she thought those were violations, then she was officially losing her mind. I crumpled the paper and tossed it in the trash. But that didn't stop her. More violation notices appeared over the week, each one more outrageous than the last. One claimed I owed over $1,000 for failure to comply with HOA landscaping regulations. Another accused me of illegal occupancy. It was almost laughable. Almost. Except for the fact that she wasn't just leaving these fake notices, she was also making phone calls. I found out when the county zoning office left a message on my phone saying someone had reported me for illegally occupying property without the proper permits. I drove down to the zoning office myself, paperwork in hand, to clear everything up. The clerk looked embarrassed as she flipped through my documents. "Yeah, I figured this was bogus. Everything's in order. Your property's not part of the HOA. You're good to go. We'll close the complaint." When I asked if they could tell me who made the complaint, the clerk just gave me a look like, "Do you even need me to say it?" Of course, it was Karen. The harassment didn't stop there. One evening, as I was unloading groceries, I found her SUV parked across my driveway, blocking me from pulling in. She stood there with her arms crossed, like some kind of self-appointed gatekeeper. "Until this is settled," she said, "you're not going anywhere. This is HOA business." That was the moment something in me shifted. Up until then, I'd been patient. I thought maybe if I kept calm, she'd eventually realize she had no power over me and back off. But when she blocked my driveway, when she physically tried to stop me from going home, I knew I had to draw a line. I put the car in park, rolled down the window, and looked her dead in the eye. "Karen, I've had enough. You're trespassing. This is private property. You have no authority here, and if you don't move your SUV right now, I'll be calling the sheriff." She sneered, like I'd just told her a joke. "Go ahead. The sheriff works with us. He'll take my side." That was her biggest mistake. She thought the law was on her side. But I had proof, official documents, county maps, legal boundaries that made it crystal clear, she had no claim here. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a folder spread out in front of me. Inside were copies of every violation notice she'd left, recordings of her shouting about rules and fines, screenshots of the zoning office's confirmation that I was in the clear, and even a few photos of her SUV blocking my driveway. I wasn't just defending myself anymore, I was building a case. Because something told me this fight was about to get a lot bigger. Over the next week, things went from annoying to downright insane. At first, it was just Karen's constant presence, her standing at the edge of my driveway, her phone out, clicking pictures like she was documenting a crime scene. But soon, she escalated into full-on harassment. It was like she had made it her life's mission to drive me out of my own home. The fake HOA notices kept piling up on my porch. Each one looked more official than the last, with bold red letters, fake signatures, and made-up fine amounts. One notice claimed I owed $2,500 for failure to comply with HOA regulations regarding livestock. Livestock? I didn't even own a chicken, let alone cows or horses. Another claimed I had committed a serious violation by leaving my curtains open past 10 p.m. The ridiculousness of it would have been funny if it wasn't happening to me. But what really got under my skin was when she started trying to drag other people into it. I noticed one of the local utility workers out near the property line one morning, checking the water meter. When I went out to ask what was going on, he looked uncomfortable. We got a call from the HOA. They said there might be some illegal hookups out here. Illegal hookups? My farmhouse had been using the same county utilities for decades. The worker shook his head and muttered, "Sorry, man. We get these calls sometimes. Usually it's nothing." He checked, confirmed everything was fine, and left. But I could tell he felt bad even being there. Karen wasn't just harassing me, she was wasting everyone's time. That night, as I sat on my porch trying to unwind, I saw her SUV slow roll past my driveway. She didn't stop, but her phone was up again, snapping photos through the window. I couldn't take it anymore. I shouted, "Hey! This is harassment." But of course, she didn't answer. She just sped off like she had accomplished something. The breaking point came a few days later. I came home from running errands to find her SUV parked sideways across my driveway again, blocking me from pulling in. This time, she wasn't even standing outside. She was sitting in the driver's seat, window rolled halfway down, clipboard in her lap. She looked at me with this smug little smirk, like she had already won. I got out of my truck and walked up to her window. "Move your car." She shook her head. "Not until you agree to meet with the HOA board. You're in violation, and this can't go on." I clenched my fists, trying to keep calm. "Karen, this is harassment. I'm done playing nice. If you don't move your car, I'm calling the sheriff right now." That smug smile only widened. "Go ahead. The sheriff works with us. He'll take my side." That was when I realized she wasn't just bluffing, she genuinely believed the HOA was above the law. She thought the sheriff's department was her personal enforcement squad. I didn't argue further. I just pulled out my phone and started recording. I walked around her SUV, getting video of it blocking my driveway, video of her sitting inside refusing to move. She tried to cover her face with her clipboard, but it was too late. I had what I needed. Finally, with an exaggerated sigh, she threw her SUV in reverse and peeled out, gravel flying behind her tires. But I knew this wasn't over. If anything, she was about to double down. And sure enough, she did. The very next morning, I was woken up by a loud knock on my door. When I opened it, there was a bright yellow envelope taped right in the center. On the outside, it read, "Final notice of legal action." Inside was a fake summons demanding I appear at an HOA hearing or face immediate fines and foreclosure. It even had a fake seal at the bottom, like she thought she could scare me with an imitation court document. That was the last straw. I gathered everything. Every fake notice, every recording, every screenshot of her texts and voicemails where she threatened me. I even printed out copies of the zoning office's confirmation that my land was not under HOA control. Then I made one more trip to the county clerk's office, this time asking specifically about harassment. The clerk raised her eyebrows when I laid everything out. "Wow. She's really going all out, isn't she?" "You have no idea," I muttered. The clerk gave me the direct number for the sheriff's office and told me I had more than enough evidence to file a harassment complaint if I wanted. That night, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the pile of papers. I hadn't wanted things to go this far. I had just wanted to move into my dream farmhouse and live in peace. But Karen wasn't going to let that happen. She wasn't going to stop until I either gave in to her imaginary authority or fought back. So I decided to fight. I organized the papers into a neat folder and kept it by the front door. Because I knew it was only a matter of time before she tried something even bigger. And when that moment came, I wanted to be ready. It didn't take long. 2 mornings later, I was sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee when I saw flashing lights at the end of my driveway. A sheriff's cruiser pulled up, and behind it, like a shadow, came Karen's SUV. She climbed out before the deputies even had their doors open, waving her clipboard like it was a weapon. "There he is," she shrieked. "Arrest him for illegally occupying HOA land." The deputies looked at each other, then back at her. One of them raised a hand. "Ma'am, calm down. We'll handle this." Karen planted her hands on her hips. "Don't tell me to calm down. He's been violating HOA rules for weeks. He refuses to pay fines, refuses to comply. He's breaking the law." The deputy turned to me. "Sir, what's going on here?" I stood up, calm as ever, and walked down the steps with my folder in hand. "Officers, thank you for coming. I think this will clear everything up." Karen's smug grin flickered when she saw the folder. But she still muttered, "It won't matter. The HOA has final say." I opened the folder and handed the deputies the county zoning maps, the official documents proving my property wasn't part of Oakwood Lakes, and copies of the harassment evidence. "This farmhouse is outside the HOA boundary. Always has been. She's been harassing me, trespassing, leaving fake notices, and even blocking my driveway. I've documented everything." The deputies flipped through the papers, their expressions shifting from neutral to firm. One of them looked up at Karen. "Ma'am, he's right. This property is not under HOA jurisdiction. You have no authority here." Karen's face went red, then pale. "That's not possible. The rules." The deputy cut her off. "Ma'am, if you continue to harass this homeowner, you could be facing charges yourself." For the first time since I'd met her, Karen had no words. She sputtered, opened her mouth, closed it again, then turned on her heel and stormed back to her SUV. Gravel flew as she sped off, leaving the deputies shaking their heads. As they handed me back the folder, one of them said, "You did the right thing documenting all this. Looks like you've got yourself a real persistent neighbor. But don't worry, we'll file a report. If she bothers you again, give us a call." I nodded, relief washing over me. For the first time since moving in, I felt like I wasn't alone in this fight. But I also knew Karen wasn't the type to accept defeat easily. And something told me this wasn't the last I'd see of her.